You have to have a frame which, when it comes to him, should hold his attention. That challenge is a very big challenge.
The lesser the screen time, the more rewrites you make. Writing and writing and rewriting. And write from your heart first.
3 minutes is a lot, man.
A lot.
You can say a lot of things in 3 minutes, dude. It's like 5 seconds, 7 seconds. Every plan பண்ணீங்கனால 2 seconds. என்ன timeline பாவனா there'll be minimum 30 shots.
Our job is to tell stories with the right emotions packed. If you give good content, any format, it will be watched.
I doubt if AI can
I think
do
you're
that.
basically jealous because it can do something better than you.
இது ஆரம்பிக்கிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி we had circulated this sheet to the audience. We got a few interesting responses. It's a very personal medium. Scriptல திருப்பம் இருந்தா போதும். Limiting as a cinematic experience, and it's a format of storytelling that gives a better cinematic experience. Vertical cinema is not about camera angles. It's about human emotions. He or she is saying that this might be affecting cinema going audiences. Already there's a perception that not a lot of people are coming to the theaters, and theatrical business வந்து பெருசா அடி வாங்கியிருக்கு. There's a lot more quantity over quality. And lastly, someone is saying that I came here for my husband and I don't know anything about vertical cinema. I don't know who this person is, but I think that you have a very supportive wife. I want to quickly understand from the panel, merely changing the orientation of camera, does it qualify as vertical cinema?
See, first I want to tell you this medium is vertical, microdrama is just a name. We are talking about in all kinds of mediums, including cinema or television or iPads or your computer screen. These are all mediums, but when it comes to fiction, we are talking about stories. In whichever way we are seeing it, we are actually dealing with stories. So, then what are stories? There are long stories, there are short stories, novels with 400 pages, but these are all stories. So what connects us to any of these mediums is we are actually connected with stories, and stories are nothing but life. Why we are attached to story has a very important reason. We are learning from stories. We are actually sharing perspectives. We are actually learning about life. Whether it's a 1 minute or 3 hours, we are ultimately gathering some kind of an input about life and trying to evolve. This is what I believe. So when it comes to a vertical medium, whether it's a 3 minute or 2 minute or a series of 30 of 3 minuters, we are actually connected with any kind of this stuff is about we are looking at some kind of an input to life. So this is my take on it. But when it comes to a vertical drama, the micro drama, we need a lot of rewrites. That's what I think the process has to be, because the shorter the time, we need to have a focus on what we are delivering. One more thing I want to tell here is when it comes to stories and the narrative becomes or comes to a fruition only with an external pair of eyes and external pair of ears, not you. And the more number of these external pairs, the more the value is. How we do it is a different story, but this should be the result. So with this perspective, if you look at this 3-minute stuff, I call it any name that you call it, a microdrama or a micro story or whatever you call it, it has to be visceral. It also has to have a kind of the medium should attract something, go into that world and see it and experience it. That's the output.
So what makes a story engaging is the emotion in it. Doesn't matter if they're watching it on phone or a laptop or a TV or a big screen. Our job is to tell stories with the right emotions packed. It's an idea. It's a very interesting idea, because everybody has, while traveling or waiting for something, they have this time. So if we can engage with them, like bring them into a story where they can watch it 3 minutes, 6 minutes, and then keep it for later. And avladha. So storytelling is the base, And storytelling la irukra the most important hook is emotional hook. So the emotional hook வந்து நம்ம 10 நிமிஷத்துக்கு ஏற்படுத்துறோமா 3 நிமிஷத்துக்கு ஏற்படுத்துறோமா அப்படின்றது தான் இதுக்குள்ள இருக்கிற ஒரு சேலஞ்சா நான் பார்க்குறேன், which is very exciting for a writer and filmmaker. So it's making our content very rich, I feel. You don't have time and you don't have the luxury of bringing in audience for 1.5 hours. அவங்களுக்கு வேறு வழி இல்லை, உட்காந்து படம் டிக்கெட் வாங்கியாச்சு படம் பார்த்துட்டு போய் தான் ஆகணும் கிடையாது. இந்த 3 மினிட்ஸில் உங்களை நீங்கள் உள்ளே இழுக்கலை அப்படின்னா அடுத்த 3 மினிட்ஸ்க்கு போக மாட்டாங்க, இல்லை அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கும்போது. ஸோ அந்த கிராஃப்ட், ரைட்டிங் கிராஃப்ட்டுக்கு தான் இது ரொம்ப அழகான ஒரு இடத்துக்கு கொண்டு போகுது. That's what I realized when I started writing for this. It's a very exciting thing for me actually. இதில் ஒரு ஷார்ட்டில் நான் இது காமிச்சிடுறேன் அப்படி கிடையாது. எமோஷன் கேரி அவுட் ஆகுதா இல்லையா, அந்த எமோஷனை நான் ஹோல்ட் ஆன் பண்ண முடியுறேன்னா இல்லையா அப்படின்றது. திஸ் டைரக்ட்லி கனெக்டட் டு தி யங்ஸ்டர்ஸ்க்கு நம்ம கதை சொல்கிறோம் அப்படின்னா நம்ம ரொம்ப இப்போ ஜாக்கிரதையாக கரெக்டாக சொல்லணும் அப்படின்ற இடத்துக்கு போகிறோம். அப்போ ஏன்னா அவங்க நிறைய விஷயங்களை நல்லா புரிஞ்சு வச்சுக்கிட்டு இருக்காங்க. அவங்களுக்கு பூசி மெழுகி ஏதாவது சொல்லி எல்லாம் விற்க முடியாது அப்படின்ற போது, பட் ஸ்டில் அவங்களும் ரொம்ப எமோஷ்னலாக இருக்கிற படங்களை இல்லை ஸ்டோரிஸை அவங்க கொண்டாடிக்கிட்டு இருக்காங்க அப்படின்றது எல்லா படங்கள்லையும் அதுதான் தெரியுது. டெக்னிக்கலாக கொஞ்சம் நம்ம அதுக்கு அடாப்ட் ஆக வேண்டியிருக்கு ஆஸ் அ பிஹைண்ட் தி கேமரா அப்படின்றதும். அது ஐ திங்க் வி ஆர் ரியலி குட் அட் தட் அப்படின்னு நினைக்கிறேன். கண்டென்ட் வைஸ் ஆர் குவாலிட்டி வைஸ் இட்ஸ் கோயிங் டு பி நாட் தட் ஒரு ஹோம் வீடியோ பண்ணுற மாதிரி இல்லாமல் நம்ம சினிமாவுக்கு என்ன ஒரு எஃபெக்ட் கொடுக்குறோமோ அந்த லென்சஸ் தான் இங்கே வரும்போது வை விஷுவலி ஆல்சோ இட் ஹேஸ் டு பிகம் அப்பீலிங். அந்த ஒரு ஒரு பிடிவாதத்தோடு நம்ம போகிறதுக்கான ஒரு இடத்துல இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு நான் நினைக்கிறேன்.
குட் ஈவினிங். So I haven't done a vertical film, but so far my understanding is that it is just another format, a visual format. More so a kind of it seems to me right now as a kind of restrictive aspect ratio level format. Otherwise the elements of storytelling still remain the same, like all of them have reflected upon, like what kind of story would you want to say, and then how would you like to characterize, what is your voice, and all of this that, I mean, when you make a regular film you think about these things. So if in the vertical cinema அப்படினு பேசணும்னா, yeah, I mean I am still curious about how in the format la ஒரு ஸ்டோரியை எப்படி ஹோல்ட் பண்ணுறீங்க பியாண்ட் த ப்ரீசெட்ஸ் ஆஃப் சர்டன் எமுலேட்டிங் ஸ்ட்ரக்சர்ஸ். யூ டோன்ட் வாண்ட் டு டூ, அஃப்கோர்ஸ், ஏன்னா இது வரைக்கும் வாட் எவர் லிட்டில் வீவ் சீன் அரவுண்ட் ஆர் லைக் திங்ஸ் வேர் யூ குட் ஜஸ்ட் ஸ்வைப் த்ரூ. ஐ டோன்ட் ஈவன் ரிமெம்பர் ஒன் வெர்டிக்கல் திங் ஐ ஹவ் சீன். For that moment I have seen something and I have no recollection. But நம்ம சீரீஸ்ன்னு சொல்லும்போது, because some friends were mentioning vertical series பண்ணணும் அப்படிங்கும்போது, see I have a very different relationship with series and all that because I come from a film society background. நிறைய ஃபிலிம்ஸ் பார்த்து சினிமாவில் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் வந்தது. There's one particular series I watched as a kid that I still remember, not as a kid, like 19-20 years. It's called Heimat. It's a German series by a filmmaker called Edgar Ritz, 1974. 24 hours, first part. Episodic, 1 hour over in 1974. It was German television. Second part in the next subsequent year, 28 hours. And then whatever, third part and whatever, we sit and watch through for a period of like, let's say 2-3 weeks. And still now, I get goosebumps thinking about it because this region called Hunsrück in that film, and the characters, the mother and I still live with them, And later some of the series I've seen, like Wire or whatever, I still live with those characters. There is a sense of, there is this whatever we call as cinematic imagination, or there's a cinematic ambition in them, and there is an aspect of memory that you stay with those characters for that period of time. It is done in a way where it feels authentic. You feel close to the characters. You feel like you're almost in their reality, living their reality, whatever kind of stories they may be. So one does reflect or have when one is doubtful of how much of those sensibilities of like you watch a mini series and then and you want to remember it, want to be with those characters. A friend of mine asked me to do a micro series. I was not particularly interested, but he was like, don't be always cynical about these things, you need to try and all that. So I had this particular idea of a particular writer from the 70s. I have the rights to that series of characters that he had written about, so I thought this could be an interesting fit. Then we started talking, and then I was shocked by certain responses from the corporate laws, which stipulates that whatever idea you're coming with, given even if you had the rights or whatever, Now it belongs to the company, and any potential parts or spin-offs of those characters would also belong to them. Now this is very, very restrictive for a filmmaker, or if you want to call certain authentic voices, you should give some kind of consideration for the creators and believe that, I mean, like, yeah, there should be some leeway and leverage for the filmmaker also. It cannot be like you take it, here's the money, you just like work as a kind of, you just do this and then go, we have it and we'll do whatever with it. That is an attitude that doesn't go well with me. And it's also become kind of it's my way of showing dissent, that I don't want to participate in this kind of to this attitude. Now, not against the system at large, but anybody who kind of would give that consideration, where they let you have some kind of ownership. We're not talking about ownership of the work, but for the characters that I create, So that is taking away too much. So I do have these kind of questions and concerns regarding this format, where you might be expected to do something that, okay, ultimately viewers have to watch and all that, but then coming back to the point, they will also have to remember or like have what they're watching with them. They can't just swipe away. So you need things which are deeper, layered, meticulously thought about. And do we have the right processes, the right kind of nurturing atmosphere for this kind of thinking?
When you talk about vertical filmmaking, many a times when we used to shoot with the horizontal cinemascope or the older formats, there are many times we'll end up something like a temple gopuram, There is no way, if I try to compose it, I have to compose a whole lot of things on this side. I used to wonder if I can turn the aspect ratio in the middle of the film. A gopuram, I can do it vertical and then I'll go back into horizontal. That used to be a kind of a fantasy those days. But now, when this vertical format thing comes out, it's amazing. It's so challenging, If you try to compose, then you will realize, very simple. I mean, in cinema, one of the oldest technique is over the shoulder. How will you do over the shoulder on a vertical format? Will you keep only the ear? Because you have to keep the other guy's full face, no? You have to see the emotion, reaction. So there's a whole lot of challenges on that. But there is another thing, is a new visual language which is going to come out, which is someone who is emotionally low. He will be kept at the bottom of the frame, Behind him will be the Everest, He has an uphill task. That straight away translates there. So the usage of those rule of thirds into one third, that works amazingly. It's primarily vertical is a portrait mode. Like still photographers will realize, it's primarily a portrait mode. So from portrait mode, if you go into, okay, fine, what do you do with, on a beach, you want to show the expanse, You will be forced to kind of choose a composition such a way that within that you have to show the depth, Whereas we are doing a moving shot on a point of view from a railway track, it will be amazing. Traveling shots are amazing when you have two leading lines, extended depth. So you're going to constantly, another technical challenge happens is whenever you shoot humans or anything on the street, you cannot do without the sky. And the sky will be the brightest part of your frame. And you have a Tamil actor who is there, you have your own technical challenges, So those kind of things, if you look at it, and added to it when you talk about micro storytelling, which is about 30 seconds to 3 minutes, the challenge with so much of visuals today running on internet, forget television, internet has so much. There is cricket match going on, there is this happening, that happening, paid televisions and OTT. You have to have a frame which when it comes to him should hold his attention. That challenge is a very big challenge. So composition is going to be tested. It's not, most people look at it as documenting. What you do with the mobile is mostly documenting. Documenting is very different from when you are critically composing and you have so little of space on either side. And B, there is this extreme depth of field because most of these cameras and still cameras mostly will be used. Nobody's going to use a high-end Alexa for a vertical filmmaking. When you go into that, the size of the sensor is really relatively small. So you have excessive depth of field, Like in normal cinema, we used to kind of use a shallow depth of field and throw the background out of focus, We shot a film in Calcutta, came back, some shots are missing. we come back here, we cheat it off with throwing the background out of focus. That's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible. You can still do it. So in terms of perspective, in terms of lensing, in terms of composition, it's very, very, very tough. I think people should practice as we used to do traditional formats.
Yeah.
You should do stills, vertical stills. Go out and click for 30 days. I will only click in vertical format. You click and you come back and see which are your powerful images. You know, did you get 10 powerful images? Then you gauge yourself and move forward. Those are kind of technical challenges, but at the end of the day, it is storytelling. You know, the emotions, the writer, nothing has changed. That notebook and penna, that is the basis over which these are all icing on the cake. But the outreach is unbelievable. You look at TikTok, man, how much it has reached. Banner would not have reached so many people, you know. But anything you do on a TikTok reaches much, much, much higher. So that outreach is a great advantage. On the other hand, you have the challenge that it has democratized. Everybody can make a film, you know. All you need is a mobile. And digital technology, light sensitivity has gone up. You don't have to bother about lighting. You don't need exposure meter. Nothing. Half my knowledge is waste, you know. Just pick it up, you can do it. So that is democratized, no doubt. But can your frame and image stand out? Will you grab the attention? That's the challenge. You can still do the panoramic canvas shots by panning over it. And human memory is so beautiful. As you pan, they will build the picture inside the brain, you know. That's not an issue at all. But another great advantage is like when you're transitioning from one scene to another, an actor is on the move. You want to keep the film moving continuously. And the location has changed. You just chill down from the building and straight come down and there he's walking into the frame. Okay. And when you do full shots of humans, it's superb, very easy. You know, some things which you couldn't do in cinema, you can do it here. If there is one tall actor and there is one short child, in cinema we used to put a stool and raise the child so that the child comes into the frame. You don't have to do that, you know. Now you can put the tall man and the child, the height difference will be seen throughout automatically. Big close-ups, you know. I constantly, from the time Samraj called me and said, me and Rohini shot a film titled Appavin Meesai, okay. And one of the key shots in that is, அந்த தெருக்கூத்து ஆக்டர் அவனோட அப்பாவோட ஒரு மீசை அதை ஒரு க்ளோஸ்அப் ஒன்று எடுத்திருப்பேன். அந்த க்ளோஸ்அப்பை நான் என்ன பண்ணுவேன் வெர்டிக்கல்னா, I don't have an answer. I can't do it. Even if I pan on it, it's not going to work. There's another question which keeps arising is, even today, there is vertical content, there is also horizontal content, and people are very comfortably turning the mobile and seeing, you know. So, இது நம்மளே போய் காலில் ஒரு செயினை போட்டு நான் வெர்டிக்கலாக தான் பண்ணுவேன் அப்படின்னு, maybe it will evolve into something. ஏன் எதுக்குன்னு தான் புரியல, you know. Horizontal is also going to parallelly exist.
It's interesting that you gave this Appavin Meesai example, because there's one of the questions that I had for you was there's this amazing Malayalam film Nanpagal Nerathu Mayakam. அதில் வந்து wide இருக்கும், extreme wide இருக்கும், mid close up இருக்கும். There's only one close up in the film. That is done with a purpose. That is done with a vision of the director. And the mari effects, is it possible in vertical filmmaking? How do you convey that?
Yeah, 100% possible. You see, like what I do is when I do films, when I go through my first reading, second reading, third reading, I start marking. I'm looking for the emotional high scene where there is no dialogue, but there is a strong emotion being communicated. That is the only place I will keep a choker close-up. I will make it a point, I will not shoot any other close-up. 2 buttons is my rule, you know. I won't go closer than that. So that is to kind of underline. அப்பதான் அந்த க்ளோஸ்அப்புக்கு ஒரு மரியாதை இருக்கு, ஒரு தனியாக it stands out, you know, it will have a punch. Throughout the film அவர் ஆக்டர் வந்து டயலாக் சொல்ல முடியல, அதனால் அடுத்து ஒரு க்ளோஸ்அப் கட் பண்ணிட்டு திரும்ப ஒரு வைடுக்கு வரேன் அப்படின்னா it goes for a 6, you know. So I don't compromise on such things. And I seriously think that if I were to kind of get into vertical filmmaking right now, I would try the typical Ozo style, you know, just static blocks throughout. The rest of the movements happens inside, because I need to kind of learn framing in a very powerful way to create frames with amazing depth, standing out, you know. You cannot move past that frame if the frame is really powerful. That is where my half victory happens, because the challenge is not the format. The challenge is against competing visuals of everywhere, you know. Today, if you have to sell puri idli, you need photography, you know. Anything and everything is all in visual. We are in a visually polluted thing where very difficult for a young child to figure out what is a good visual and what is bad visual, you know. Because the grammar of visual storytelling is not that common. And digital has democratized, but in the process, the whole book reading habit is gone. You know, I had a very close friend of mine, Rasul Bukuti. His son was interested in photography. So he came and said that, look, can you get him a camera? So I got him a camera. And then I seriously kind of tried to kind of tell him, you need to kind of pick up the user manual. At the end of it, there is an appendix. If you go through that page and understand everything, for every doubt, you go use the internet, read, understand it. The minute you understand it thoroughly, then you're mastered the camera. So he came and said, but why should I do that? I go into YouTube, there is something which I'm going to watch. When he said it, I didn't have an answer, but the truth is that my reading habit has come down. You know? So everything has gone into visual narration, visual storytelling, and we are in a very challenging era. Like Savraj had put this question, camera Thiruppuna Podhuma. Yes, actually camera Thiruppuna Podhum. Michella AI paathukom. You know.
You have conducted several workshops. According to you, how do you write for this particular medium?
See, that's what I was discussing even with Rohini and sir here. See, when we write for a particular medium, it has a relevance to screen time. When we have the formats different, we have different screen times. And for a story or an audiovisual story, I think the most expensive currency is screen time. It's a currency. Yeah. And we are trying to emote through that, as Rohini was saying. So we need that time to prepare a recipe here. It's a recipe that we create with life, with something that I can attach to life or I can gain towards my life. So screen time has to be measured where you have only this screen time. Then how do I make the best use of it? So the lesser the screen time, the more rewrites you make. Especially when you are trying to make a series where the 30-minute or 90-minute narrative has a narrative direction. At the same time, you have a 3-minute direction. Or rather, if you have a season and then you are growing out of the season, you have another longer narrative direction. This has to have a definition first. So when it comes to a 3-minute in hand, look at ad films you shoot an ad film. You have hardly 40 seconds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
20 seconds.
And then you cut to 10 and 20 or whatever it is. But you are trying to communicate. That's what I'm saying. Whatever be the medium, there is something called a vicariousness that you make. Vicariousness is only audiovisual medium has that property. So when he makes a movie, first I pay 200 rupees, I sit in the theater and lights go down and his movie starts. I am pulled into that movie. That's the writer-director's job. And when that's done, I am into it, and that is called vicariousness. Then I forget the chair I am sitting, I forget my worries, I get into the worries of the screen, of that world. So that depends on the time you have, the screen time you have.
Forget the format also, whatever format it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when it comes to a 3-minuter, you really will have to condense that screen time to the best of benefits that you are trying to arrive at. Am I giving the material of that hook of emotion? That actually is the intelligence. But the best prospect of your product is your perspective. That's why I watch some other's product. Had I had the same perspective, I wouldn't watch that movie. So I gain from that. Whether it's a 3-minuter or a 3 hours, or you were talking about a 28-hour thing, Decalogue.
Yes.
When Kieslowski made that, there was no room for a release because 1 hour, 12-hour movie couldn't be produced. I mean, couldn't be shown in theaters. So he had to wait for videos to come. Now, looking other way around, we also have the same material when movie was first introduced. You have this, I'm not talking about feature-length films, I'm talking about 15-minute sequences in films. Those were reels. Out of necessity, a writer has to write a 12 to 15-minute product because when it is produced as an audiovisual product, somebody has to take the reel and put another reel. So there is an episodic division there, though it is a continuum. So that was exercised by writers in writing a 12-minute sequence. That's why lots of, 8 sequences came into movies. So same way, when necessity demands or certain necessity knocks at your doorstep, the writer will have to evolve to make that product out. That's what Samrat said. When you have umpteen number of writers around here, I have the scope of finding umpteen number of perspectives. And that's the prospect. But at the same time here, the exercise is writing and writing and rewriting. And write from your heart first. Make it a long process of writing, then you need to sieve it, then you need umpteen number of rewrites, and then you produce it to a 3-minuter. You also have a restriction of budgets. So the writers are a great challenge here. At the same time, when you make this 3-minuter work, more than the budget part of it, there is a question of actualization here. That's one thing. And I don't know whether the profits will, compared to the output, the profit will benefit the writer. I don't know about that. But at the same time, that's the only way. And you need to stick to the industrial standards. You cannot change a feature length, screen time. Why? Because theaters demand it, not the producer. Recently I was seeing that movie called Dhurandhar, the 3-hour and 40-minute movie. But the 3-hour and 40, I was engaged. The same way the 3-minute has to engage, that's it.
Yeah.
There is no hard and fast rules here. Nobody can make miracles here, only work. Produce it, see it, and show others that I could make it. It is exactly like I always tell my aspirants who come here, we all have a feeling that it is my product, it's my product, I created this product. There's nothing like that. We create it for others.
Okay.
That extra pair of eyes I told you. That is your intelligence. So just to show that I am intelligent, I make things complex, unnecessarily complex, to show that I am an intelligent guy who can make complex stories, that doesn't work. That's not necessary. When you compare Tenet, for that matter, you have all complex materials in that. The story is complex, the narrative is complex, the characters are complex. And that movie, though it was past 3 hours, it was not enough to expose rightly well, and people couldn't understand it. So one thing I want to tell you here is this 3-minute is a challenge for the writer just because you want to expose the character, you want to engage them with emotions, and they want to click the other 3-minuter immediately. That's your challenge.
Yeah.
That's the industry demand, and you have to do it. And your biggest wealth here, one more word, is your perspective. Believe in that perspective and write from your heart. Then you rewrite it, including your faith. You can rewrite it.
That's beautifully put. So the person who asked this question, Thiruppuna Podhuma, I think you got the answer. Let's take the case of Neenga Ezhudhina Padam, Guna, 24, I think you gave an interview talking extensively about Manjumeel Boys, and like much later came Manjumeel Boys, and they gave a homage to Guna. The writing was so powerful that it stood the test of time, and which is why they were able to do that. Now we face the challenge of audience attention span, and the fact that enna paakrondradhe நம்ம நாளைக்கு கேட்டா மறந்துறோம்ன்றது. For there are so many writers out there, what would your advice be?
I don't think that you shouldn't forget or you will forget. Don't worry about all that is what I believe, because the medium, in this medium you can go back and revisit that. Not like a feature-length film where you cannot asked the projector to stop, no, I didn't understand that, come back, can I see it? It's not possible. But in this medium, you can go back. You can see umpteen number of times. It's good for the profitability. The more clicks it comes, it's good for you. That is possible. But when you say that, you cannot think in terms of how you write a feature flick here. Right. This quote was done by T.S. Eliot in 1965. Before computers and before all these chuckers that we are seeing around here. And he wrote, where is the life lost in living? Where is the wisdom lost in knowledge? And where is the knowledge lost in information? We are at that stage. Our knowledge is lost, or wisdom and knowledge is lost in just information. We are guided by information. So when I ask my son what's the population of India, he said, why should I know about it? I can just Google and find out now what's the exact number. Then why should I know it? So this is the kind of material for a product that you are going through in this mobile phone. So when it comes to revisiting and revisiting and revisiting, people are prone to it now. So we may create characters, we need in hurry to make them go into a memorable status, but at the same time it can be recapitulated, but your intelligence is in making it go forward within every 3 minutes. We can expose them through these 30 episodes to come by. So you need in hurry about it. All your focus is to create the emotion and the hook work regularly. And I doubt about this attention span thing. You know, when you want attention, you can have attention. I don't think this is all other kind of industrial facets which say that you have this attention span, and 18-year-old have 1.5 seconds of and 1.35 seconds of attention span. These are all statistics. I don't know whether it's true. And we are guided by the industrial standards, and accept it is what I believe. And make use of these 3 minutes. And your perspective is your greatest wealth. I keep on saying that. Believe it and please do it, and it will work.
Starting la paste in the mode, I was telling how this is perceived as a common man's medium. Today, anybody who has a smartphone, who can produce an engaging content and has a sizable following on social media or wherever it is a star. Would you agree that?
Yeah, everybody would like to be a star is what I agree with.
Right. Some of the popular videos that we see have come from tier 2, tier 3, and probably from rural and villages where they might not have that much access, but they are able to produce, create hyper-local content, and these are engaging content, even though it's done for a shorter format and vertical idila. Do you think that in the format is actually giving access to people, like it's democratizing the medium in itself?
Yes, definitely. I remember Balu Mahendra sir was saying at one of our meetings when we, this Tamil Nadu Progressive Writers Association meeting, he came. And we were conducting, I think they were conducting workshops for new writers, short story writers. So he said, I would like to ask everybody to take up a camera. Because ஏதோ ஒரு ஊரில் ஏதோ ஒரு கிராமத்தில் இருக்கிற ஒரு பொண்ணு கையில் கேமரா கிடைச்சா அவ சொல்கிற கதை என்னால் சொல்ல முடியாது. அவளுக்கு என்ன கிடைக்கல, என்ன கிடைச்சிருக்கு, என்னென்னலாம் அவளுக்கான ஒரு அழுத்தங்கள் அப்படின்றது. ஸோ அதுதான் நடந்திருக்கு இப்போ அவங்க கையில் ஒரு டூல் கிடைச்சிருக்கு. அவங்களுக்கு சொல்கிறதுக்கான வாழ்க்கையினுடைய வலிகளையோ இல்லை கொண்டாட்டங்களையோ அவங்க சொல்கிறாங்க இல்லை, அது ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமான ஒரு விஷயம். ஆனால் இங்கே நம்ம பேசிகிட்டு இருக்கிறது என்னென்னா நம்ம ப்ரொஃபஷ்னலாக ஒரு விஷயத்தை கொண்டு போகிறோம். லைக் சினிமா என்னை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 4 minutes doesn't matter. This for me is cinema. This cinema is short cinema, short film, but this is a film for me. We are all filmmakers. ஸோ ஃபில்ம்மேக்கருக்கு என்னென்னலாம் விஷயங்கள் இருக்கோ, ஐ டு நாட் காம்ப்ரமைஸ் அபவுட் மை விஷுவல், I do not compromise about my emotion, and I do not compromise with the performance by the actors or sound. A film is a totality of all these things. So we are not compromising on that. No filmmaker will compromise even if it is for a short, 3-minute series. A good writer writes a novel, but he also writes a short story, and he also writes a poem. Poetry, sometimes 2 lines is enough, 4 lines is enough, but poetry is much more dense. It conveys much more. It tugs at you. It stays with you. இல்ல அவ்வளோதான். இந்த ஃபார்ம்ஸ் தான் மாறுற மாதிரி பார்க்கணும். We have to apply our attention to something like that is what I feel. The famous writer, a famous poet called Salma, அவங்களுக்கு எழுத முடியாது அப்படின்னு இருக்கும்போது பாத்ரூமில் உட்காந்து எழுதி அனுப்புவாங்க கவிதை. அந்த கவிதைகளெல்லாம் வெளி உலகத்துக்கு வந்த போது தான் அவங்க வாழ்க்கை வெளியே தெரிய வந்துச்சு. அதுதான் நான் சொல்கிறேன். எல்லா இடத்துலையுமே இருக்கிற வாழ்க்கையும் அதனுடைய எல்லா வண்ணங்களையும் கொண்டு வர்றதுக்கு என்னென்னலாம் நடக்கலாமோ அதெல்லாம் நடக்கணும். அது டெமோக்ரஸி அப்படின்றது அந்த மாதிரி போகணும். அதில் குவாலிட்டி இல்லை, நம்மளால் லென்சிங் பண்ண முடியல, அதெல்லாம் பக்கத்தில் வச்சுடுவோம். கதை நல்லா சொல்ல முடியுதா? Did I touch your heart? Did my story stay with you? Are you taking something from this? அவ்வளோதான் எங்களுக்கு வேணும் filmmakers.
Cinema, when it started 1.33, which was very squarish kind of thing. From there, it started expanding, expanding horizontally. It did not go to. The big dramatic change is this, going into 9:16 vertical aspect ratio. This is the major change which has happened. I sincerely hope filmmaking will now go to an extent where you can change, பாதி படம் vertical போயிட்டு இருக்கும். There is a scene where I have to go horizontal, I will go horizontal. Why not? That's a possibility.
Earlier, like when I used to interact with directors and to a certain extent even actors, in the OTT வந்தபோது they were a little hesitant. ஏன்னா அவங்களுக்கு ஐயோ இவர் ஓடிடி ஸ்டார் ஆகிட்டாரு, இல்லை இவங்க ஓடிடி டைரக்டர் ஆகிட்டான், பிகாஸ் த மெயின் ஸ்ட்ரீம் டசன்ட் டேக் யூ சீரியஸ்லி இஃப் யூ ஸ்டார்ட் கிரியேட்டிங் சம்திங் ஃபார் ஓடிடி. அட்லீஸ்ட் தட் வாஸ் த பர்செப்ஷன் தட் பீப்புள் ஹேட். அதே மாதிரி இந்த மைக்ரோ ட்ராமாஸ்க்கு, இந்த ஷார்ட்டர் ஃபார்மேட் வீடியோக்கு தேர் இஸ் ஆல்சோ அ ஸ்டிக்மா தட்ஸ் பீப்புள் சீம் டு அசோசியேட். அது என்ன ஷார்ட் ஃபில்மா, அது வுட் சீரியஸ் ஃபில்ம் மேக்கர்ஸ் டேக் சம்திங் லைக் திஸ் in the future, knowing that there's this stigma that's out there.
ஆக்சுவலாக அது இந்த சேனல் கதை ஷார்ட்ஸ் மாதிரியான ஒரு சேனல், சீரியஸான ஷார்ட் சீரியஸுக்காக ஒரு சேனல் வரும்போது அந்த ஸ்டிக்மா ரிமூவ் ஆயிடுச்சு அப்படின்னு நான் நினைக்கிறேன். பிகாஸ் ஷார்ட் ஃபில்ம்ஸ்க்குன்னா எங்கே நம்ம காமிக்கிறோம்? ஃபில்ம் ஃபெஸ்டிவல்ஸில் தான் காமிக்கிறோம், இல்லைன்னா பர்சனலாக நம்ம அனுப்புகிறோம். ப்ளீஸ் வாட்ச் இட்னு எல்லாரையும் கெஞ்சிக்கிட்டு இருக்கோம் அந்த ஷார்ட் ஃபில்ம் பார்க்குறதுக்கு. பட் இது அப்படி கிடையாது. இட் இஸ் ஸ்ட்ரெயிட் அவே கோயிங் டு தி இந்த கதைஷார்ட்ஸ் அப்படின்ற ஒரு சேனல் இருக்குது. அந்த சேனல்குள்ளே போனீங்கன்னா நீங்கள் கதைகள் பார்க்கலாம் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி இருக்கும்போது அது சீரியஸ்னஸ் இங்கே கொண்டு ஆக்டிங்க்கு தனி. ஆக்சுவலாக ஏன் சீரியல்ஸில் ஆக்டர்ஸாக நாங்கள் நடிக்க மாட்டோம் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறதுக்கு காரணம் என்னென்னா, ஓவர் எக்ஸ்போஷர் இருக்கிறது ஆக்டர்ஸுக்கு இட் டசன்ட் ஒர்க். ஆக்சுவலாக சம்டைம்ஸ் இட் ஒர்க்ஸ். லைக் ராதிகா மேம் எல்லாம் நிறைய பண்ணாலும் கூட அவங்கள பார்த்துக்கிட்டே இருக்கலாம் போல் ஒரு ஆக்டர் அவங்க. ஸோ அது ஒர்க் அவுட் ஆச்சுன்னா ஓகே. பட் அதர்வைஸ் லைக் என்ன ஆகும்னா அதிகமாக நம்ம எக்ஸ்போஷர் அதிகமாகிடும். நிறைய இந்த ஃபேஸை பார்த்து இப்போவே நீங்கள் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நிறைய மலையாளம் ஃபிலிம்ஸில் அதிகமாக நீங்கள் பார்க்கலாம். லைக் யூ see those character actors coming from nowhere. அவங்க ஃபேஸே நமக்கு தெரியாது, ஆனால் அந்த கேரக்டர் ஒர்க் ஸோ வெல் பிகாஸ் ஆஃப் தேர் பெர்ஃபார்மன்ஸ். ஸோ எப்போவுமே டைரக்டர்ஸ் ஃப்ரெஷ் ஃபேஸஸ் வேணும் அப்படின்னு பார்ப்பாங்க. பிகாஸ் த கேரக்டர் ஹேஸ் டு ஒர்க், நாட் தி ஆக்டர். பட் ஆக்டர் ஆட்ஸ் சம்திங் அப்படின்ற இடத்துல அவங்க இந்த நோன் ஃபேஸஸ்க்கு போகிறாங்க. ஸோ அது அது தனி, இது தனி. இப்போ இந்த இடத்துல ஸ்டிக்மா எப்படின்னா, இதில் சீரியஸ்னஸ் இருக்காது அப்படின்னு நினைக்கிறதுல தான் இருக்கும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். Unless they enter and watch a good content.
Absolutely.
That's all which is going to make you watch it. If you give good content, any format, it will be watched.
One of the reasons why we are doing this in the first place is to get Kadhaishorts they are reaching out to hyper local content.
Yeah.
And in the stigma associated இருக்கிறதுனால, so we want to get people who are in the industry உங்களோட views என்னன்றது கூட.
I agree with it totally. It's just about watching few really good vertical cinema, really good stories, then naturally you'll feel like, yeah, this is a medium that one could. And also I was feeling, இவங்க சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கும்போது I was thinking, இப்போ vertical cinema பண்ணணும் நிறைய பேருக்கு இது பண்ணணும்னா you can, one of the key aspects is decentralization. It doesn't, you don't have to always approach it with, okay, Chennai, industry, companies, script அனுப்பணும், நீங்கள் ஸ்கிரிப்டை படிப்பீங்க, அது பேஸ்டாக 3 minutes or 5 minutes you gonna see how good it is and then you're gonna fund it. But you could just give a phone to somebody somewhere, like I am from Coimbatore, I live in Tadagam, a village, I've been living and working there for 15 years now. I see all kinds of people. I live in a very kind of mountain village and all that. There's life like everywhere in city and here there's crazy life. So sometimes this modus operandi could also be different. Like you could just give a phone and there's some basic instructions, some basic classes, and then they would find forms, and those can be also very interesting. Definitely. And not always dramatic ones, because sometimes you look at this format and it's more suited to very experiential, not dramatically experiential, but sometimes very viscerally experiential, like some sports or like things like my friend solittu irundharu indha honey edukradala idla paatha nalla irukume. You never know what people will come up with. I would say be open and give them few cameras, give them phones only, or some, they don't have to use like, you have like good 4K phones and whatever it is. And so this centralized thinking should be there from whoever are producing these things. And I was just thinking when they were talking, so idhukku another analogy iruka, ipo iniki vandittu inda kutti reels la like whatever 2 minutes 3 minutes paathutrukkom. What I suddenly thought about, you know, back in the day when cinema started out, there was these small what were they called, Nickelodeons. You know, Nickelodeons, where when Jewish immigrants came, those were the first things they invested on. They started realizing that the people are waiting in queues for something, for a product they have not yet had or experienced, with already pre-booking and giving their money. What a wonderful business. So they started expanding it, and of course theaters and longer format films. Anga reels tha varum. Nickelodeons la it's a reel where individual experience. Yeah. So now after 120 years, we are back into the cycle of actually consuming things on the phone. Ipo sir sonna mari vandittu we can go back. That option already come when cinema la mattume nama films paaka poradilla, festivals la mattu paaka poradilla. Everybody who has a laptop, essentially everybody who has a phone and an OTT connection and also download access can literally watch any film. We've all been revisiting our favorite classics and scenes from all films. So revisiting is an aspect. Does the work make you revisit it? That's one question that is always I'm kind of raising. But when digital technology rewind forward button kandupidichirundu, we can go and come back. It's not a linear. Theatrical is very linear. You go sit, you flow with time. Cinema is a medium that happens in time, and also you are taken on a journey through time. It's not an art installation where you can see something and pause and then do something. It's not like that. But here you are given the choice of, you can pause, go watch back. At the end of the day, what would matter is, like avangala sonna mari sir sollumo sonar, there is a quality of attention to something, right, to the images you create, to the stories. Ivanga stories pathi sollumode there is a marudi nama solradhu enna emotion. The emotional perception, it's not a word, it's something that happens through several combination of numerous elements. Okay, and that's the beauty of cinema. So in the idha vandu yaar evoke pandrangalo, they will be great creators in any format, you know. Because I was thinking there's always been challenges to cinema. See, cinema sir sonna mari vandittu academy flat la feature films varudhu like in 35. Then Henri Cretin, he was the guy who invented cinemascope with anamorphic lenses. You know why it was invented for? It was for submarines to see, to get a peak, to get a wide view of, you need a lens that goes up and gives you the most panoramic possible view. So that was during the First World War, and then in the 20s he applied for patent, and then none of the big studios accepted it. Only in the 50s they thought, okay, we need when after television they wanted to do something against television, so they, okay, let's do widescreen. Everybody said, okay, widescreen is going to kill rest of the formats and all. What happened? No, widescreen is as important a format as any other. You said about Train Dreams. Train Dreams is actually more closer to our vertical cinema. Train Dreams is a 4:3 film. Even though the format could be large format, even though the lensing could be wide, ultimately your perception of the information is from a vertical this thing. Of course, in an anamorphic film, in a cinemascope films, or even if you crop it for whatever, there is a horizontal. So different ways of consuming things is always, sir sonna mari, once you start watching a film, once it gets to you, whatever it is, you forget all these formats and all these things. So the quality of attention is it's beautiful. Sir on the Ozuoda example sonnaru. See that Ozuo or Brazono, they are filmmakers who have actually who had supreme quality of attention through a certain simplicity they reach by deciding what is the intention behind something. The intention matters a lot.
Yeah.
So again it goes to the nuances of what is it that you're looking for in a frame, how are you going to create your feeling. That feeling is your bhavam, which is the expression that makes it whatever it is. So there is going to be, when 3D films came, people thought, okay, 2D cinema is going to be dead. But what happened? Cinema still thrives on the imagination of the third dimension. You need always a hidden angle to cinema. You don't want to always say everything. Or விஷயத்தை பத்தின எல்லாமே சொல்லிட்டா there's nothing more interesting in it. So two-dimensional image making of any kind, which is why painting is still supreme. 1,000 years of any visual evolution has still not killed paintings. So there is an aspect of hidden, untold thing which creates perception itself. Perception happens because there is one element that you need to imagine, that each of us imagine in different ways. Sometimes collectively we form an image or individually we. So even though இன்னைக்கு வந்து சினிமா இன்னைக்கு இண்டிவிஜுவலா வந்துட்டாலும் நம்ம எல்லாம் சேர்ந்து போய் ஒரு படத்தை பார்த்தாலும் the emotions is in a very collective psychological space. So it is, the responsibility again comes back to you, and why must you do it, what are you trying to achieve through it, how focused or what quality of attention to all the nuances you give, and how do you work out all these elements. That is, at the end of the day, going to matter.
One thing I have to add to what he was saying is, see, what I realize is, see, you go back to Aristotelian thought, which we are still following, 2,400 years after. We are still following what he said. There is no other questions about it. He said, episodes are the least form of engagement, episodic narrative.
Mm-hmm.
He said the most effective narrative is continuum. Without a break, you are watching from start to finish.
Yeah.
Now, why we are talking is we are combining both. So we are talking about a long narrative with episodes in it. So we are combining episodes with continuum, which is not the intention of better storytelling, but it's the requirement of an industry. That's what it is. So when you want to have that perfect engagement of a continuum, you go watch a movie. But mobile phones is an industrial demand. And then you work material for that. That's what I was telling. Apple makes movies. Why? Because it creates cameras in mobile phones. So it promotes people to make movies with Apple cameras. They even have a extension of anamorphic lens which can be attached to that camera. So what I'm trying to say here is, knowingly or unknowingly, we are serving the industry.
But sometimes we can make a choice as not to also, because sometimes, sir, I find it very, very annoying and irritating that to watch every film, you have to watch 10 ads in the beginning.
Yeah.
So these kind of industry, so my way of decision is I watch very few films on the theater unless it's in festivals where I don't want to be watching after the interval 10 ads. These are very serious things to me, like, okay, அதெல்லாம் ads முடிஞ்சோனே படத்துக்கு போயிரலாம். It doesn't happen all the time like that. When you're watching something on your phone, how many times, whatever OTT or whoever curates it or whatever it is, how many times are interrupted by ads? Then you have to buy something which is ad free, and then there's all kinds of interruptions, which is bombarded to you by the system. By the system. Now you don't always want to subscribe to that. You don't want to watch like that. So that is where your differences come.
But one thing I sorry to interrupt your questions, but one more thing I always want to share with you is, when you watch a program like Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent, there comes a guy who comes and says, with a guitar, he comes and says that, so some Simon or XYZ will ask a question, what made you sing this song? He said, I had a close friend and we were thick friends and he's no more. And I wrote this song for him.
Emotion.
That starts, that sentence, that point starts the emotion. Then he first tunes, or rather he strikes the guitar and he starts singing the lines. You start crying. The second minute you start crying. It makes me a whole lifetime from my family for me to cry. All my lifetime, I was looking for a space where I could make myself cry, but I can't. But this 1 minute makes me cry.
Yeah.
That 1 minute makes me laugh. 1 minute makes me awed in surprise. That's what I talk about, the perspective that you should have to create. Whether you said a
Moving.
wonderful thing,
Should
this
be
perspective, we are talking in jargons. But without all this knowledge, we could see hundreds and thousands of perspectives from this common man who will shoot something and he wanted to show his gut out or his heart out or his experience out or his environment out. That will affect you as emotionally. We don't know. That's a great point that you said.
Cinema pati pesno, then came OTT. Now we are talking about OTT munadi there were short films. Now we are talking about shorter format, which essentially means that on the screen oda size surigite irukku. Do you think that it's becoming more personal because as shorter the frame gets, is it becoming more personal? Is this something that you would subscribe to?
Personal அப்படிங்கிறது மேபி இன் த வே யூ வியூவிங் இட் வித் ஹூம் அதில் வேணால் பர்சனலாக இருக்கலாம் பட் personal is a feeling that you associate with something, whether you watch it on a big screen, whether you watch it among 100 people or you're in your room watch. So the relationship between you and what you're watching, that relationship is what makes it personal or private. And there are some private things also we watch, and there are some personal things that we watch which we would like to share with others and still we kind of emote in a different way. So இது பர்சனல் ஆகுதா இல்லையான்றது இட் டிபெண்ட்ஸ் ஆன் தட் ஒர்க் ஐ வுட் சே பியாண்ட் த ஃபார்மேட்ஸ் ஆர் வாட் எவர் யூர் வாட்சிங் லைக் சார் சொன்ன மாதிரி இட் குட் பி சம்படி டூயிங் சம்திங் நாட் ரிலேட்டட் டு ட்ரமாட்டிக் திஸ் திங். இவர் சொன்ன மாதிரி அவர் அந்த மொமெண்ட்டில் ஒரு 1 minute is enough to make somebody emote and all that. Sometimes I feel, see, I did this I did this 3 times. It's called a straight 8. So it's one Super 8 cartridge that you shoot with without cuts. You should basically cut within the camera. You shoot 5 seconds, and next shot is the next 5 seconds. You don't edit it. So I try to break down and shoot. So Super 8 cartridge runs for 2 minutes 50 seconds or 3 minutes, okay, in 18 frames. So இதில் நான் இந்த 3 minutesக்கு விஷயங்கள் without any cutting, without any retakes, without editing, in camera editsோட பண்ணணுங்கும் போது இந்த 3 வாட்டி இந்த films பண்ணும்போது it's very very let's say very archaic and a very basic form of storytelling னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். I understood how much is 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a lot, man.
A lot.
You can say a lot of things in 3 minutes, dude. It's like 5 seconds, 7 seconds. எப்படி பிளான் பண்ணீங்கனாலும் 2 seconds. என்ன டைம்லைனில் பார்க்கணும் there'll be the minimum 30 shots, 40 shots. Actually, you can make somebody emote in 3 shots, buddy. That's the whole Kuleshov montage. You just need 3 shots for somebody to like kind of emote. So, and there are in techniques and pathina thousands techniques irukku. Montage techniques le pathina avlo vidhamana montages irukku. Cinematographic techniques pathina avlo vidhamana compositional techniques irukku. So ultimately perception is something that you create within the image, not the image itself. Just because I have a wide lens, it doesn't become a wide this thing. Width is a perception that's created in my mind by the usage of the space there, the characters in the relationship. So in the nuances la da இதனுடைய if it works or not ன்னு இருக்கு. But sometimes it's not always, this is what we learn, like when we watch films and all that, how does this happen? This emotion இங்கே நடந்தது வந்து எப்படி? Not only through acting all the time. You see this dance of several things. So ultimately ஒன்று வந்துட்டு this should be, for the authentic, it should be in hands of interesting creators from the productions, whoever is producing or whatever, give them some space. Even for who no experience in creating, give them some space. Arbitrary ஒரு சில விஷயங்கள் பண்ணணும், decentralize பண்ணணும். Only then we are making the palette more dynamic. Otherwise it's a one dimensional kind of a boring thing which we all anyway hate about reels, you know. We don't want to do that.
ஒண்ணுமே கிடையாதுங்க. We are here to entertain. Entertainment இருக்கா இல்லையான்னு பார்த்துக்கணும், அவ்வளவுதான். Entertainment அவ்வளவுதான்.
Conversely, the only rule in filmmaking is not to make something boring.
That's it. Engaging, avladhaan.
Otherwise, conversely.
The news article that came out in Hindustan Times, in the current landscape in India la vandu around 550 plus vertical micro dramas are already being in production, and there are dedicated apps that are doing this. Considering this, if we were to take this as a fact, is this signaling something? Is this a new era of filmmaking as well as content consumption? Your quick thoughts on that?
See, digital vandamode filmmaking would change அப்படினாங்க, but still those who were initiated, who wanted to go the extra mile, they still made those films, the different films or whatever. So even back in the day, people who had less money, 16 Leo, 8 Leo, whatever, they found their ways to make. So just because something is available and is democratic, I don't think it is truly democratic. Still, I'd say all these, இப்போ தமிழ்லையும் சரி, after digital, how many films you can say has actually benefited from this technology? At the end of the day, இன்னைக்கு நிறைய calculations சொல்றாங்க, the cost of making a film in digital and preserving it is pretty much similar to the cost of shooting on film when you consider like for 50 years or whatever, preserving it, and almost relatively similar. So there is no economic angle that you are gaining otherwise. Of course, there are processes that this thing. So what I'd say is it's not just about it's not about tech at all in this thing, and it's not about how many number of micro cinemas are there, how many, everybody has a phone, you know. I don't think that means that everybody is going to make something interesting, you know. It is still going to be the initiated ones, sometimes curious ones, you know, not necessarily initiated. So it's a mix of all, some curious people, and so இவங்க மூலமா தான். So earlier நம்ம பேசின மாதிரி different formats, 3D வந்தாலும் எது வந்தாலும் it didn't kill something else. Everything found a way to coexist. So this will be a medium which might exist on its own. Will it compete? That's a question for the future. I mean, we'll yet to see interesting producers எந்த மாதிரியான talents ஃபைண்ட் பண்ண போறாங்க, and the way we judge talents itself should be different. That's what I'm trying to, the way we like curate this whole thing, the way we access them, அங்க வந்துட்டு you find different modalities, then there can be a change, you know.
I have a question for the panelists. You're all the storytellers. Your acquisition format could be any of the cameras, okay? But your final display of vertical is always going to be mobile phone. So you, when you write a story, the guy is watching it, he'll get a call in between. There is a break which is going to happen. How are you going to take that into consideration?
No, in this format it happens. That's why it's episodic.
Right.
So the call will make another episode, that's it.
So if it happens in the stage of character establishment, or it happens on your plot
that's what I'm
point.
saying, that
இல்ல
perspective
இப்போ
has
வந்து ஆடியன்ஸ் வந்து ரொம்ப எஜுகேட் பண்ணிட்டோம் நம்ம. இதுக்கு முன்னாடி வந்து நம்ம டைம் எடுத்து இவங்களுடைய பேக்ரவுண்ட், இவங்க அப்பா அம்மா இப்படி அப்படின்னு சொல்லி இருக்கிறத விட இப்போ நிறையவே எஜுகேட் பண்ணிட்டோம் எல்லாரையும். ஒரு 2-3 ஷார்ட்லேயே நம்ம சொல்ல வேண்டிய விஷயத்த பேக்ரவுண்ட் எல்லாமே வந்து எஸ்டாப்ளிஷ் பண்ண முடியுது. ஐ திங்க் தட் ஹஸ் given us a lot of freedom.
Sometimes
to
if they want, if they are attracted like a binge watching condition, perhaps they will switch off that incoming calls.
ஆமா.
That's the only other alternate.
So you must make the content as
Absolutely.
interesting as possible
as a
to
binge watcher would do.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is binge watching? Or it is like binge drinking. Nothing more than that. So I think this format is something that is created for addiction. The addiction is the thumb movement. And where the thumb stops, you need to know. I'm just jocularly saying it's a very silly thing to say, but at the same time, this is the challenge.
True.
Perhaps we'll try it. And the 550 apps that is coming in, each app may have a great ambition to make here. Each app may have a lot of different ambition than what we can discuss here. That also is a possibility. There are so many other ways of conducting this app. But when you are talking about sensible fiction with some kind of spontaneous, vicarious conditioning happening, or you are conducting it for immediate engagement or emotion building or blah, blah, blahs, then we are trying it out, that's it. We have to wait and see and prove. That depends on the writers initially, because they are the first source of this imagery, or first source of whatever we are trying to make. And they have a lot of challenge here.
One another challenge I kind of see is on the audio front. Like what cinema has in terms of atmos and that kind of an, here we end up with stereophonic, and that stereophonic works only when people wear a headphone or a earphone, which if you look at it, only probably 30% of the people are using headphones and earphones. You know, most of people, even in public places like airport or train and all, they're just casually watching it with slightly
And you can
low
always
audio.
hear them watching and you
hear
tell
it,
them,
and
please
it's damn
mute
irritating. You know, I'm trying to read a book and you are playing something. So, I mean, that's one thing which is going to have a challenge, audio. And another major thing is, in cinema, the way we use silence, I doubt whether you can use silence here.
Absolutely.
Because you're surrounded
Alphonse,
by already...
That's what I'm saying. This
Yeah.
is a different kind of an approach. When we are making a feature as a cinema, that's a different approach to it. And this kind of an approach is something like information considered as wisdom. This is what the comparative I can have. Information is considered as wisdom. That's the product.
Another thing which is set in these days is the AI based. You know, if you're good in giving a prompt to Chat GPT, you can create a video, still, whatever. So, what we typically call in wildlife terms anthropomorphism, you know. So, you put in that anthropomorphism, and there's a whole lot of repetitive stories which are coming out. There is a shark which has got mollusks grown on its head. There is a wire around it. It comes to a human being for help on the boat. He gets up, jumps in, cuts all that stuff. It's basically a shark. It is not seen cinema. Okay. So this is constantly kind of happening. A lion comes and looks at a young calf or a cow calf, and then anthropomorphism. You know. So, but it's so easy to kind of say this is an AI created one. You know.
But I have a slightly pessimistic take on AI filmmaking in general because let's say when Karthik is calling cut or when ma'am is reacting to a shot, it's decades of experience that is culminating to a point where you're making a decision at that point of time. You might probably feed in all this as a form of data to the system, but whether will the system be able to take this decision at that point of time, which some of you guys may have made in the past, or when you make films in the future? I doubt if AI can
I think you're basically jealous because it can do something better than you.
It shows our incompetence.
Because
It reflects our
I look at it like if I were to kind of narrate a story to somebody. Today I have a visual support to narrate. You know, something which is in my brain. I narrate the story to Samraj or somebody. Whether he gets it or not gets it, I do not know. You know, diplomatically.
But I would like to, you know, not go with that because when I narrate a story, there is a film in his mind. It must be much better film than what I'm showing him.
Right.
So I think we should go with that kind of.
The film you're showing him creates that better film.
Yeah.
See, that's something
Like you are restricting his imagination, right? When you say that.
Or
like,
you
know,
guide his imagination.
Exactly.
You just tell him like this is where you go. There's always a analysis. It's like the audience of creator pati pesumbodhu sometimes the director, I mean like you are almost guided by the audience where you should go. Rather it's the other way around. You want people to come to where you would take them and also let them free. They'll have their own imaginary angles, but then imaginary angles come from an area where you kind of open.
Correct.
You know? So it's
correct.
In this format, what I believe is when between both of you were talking, I believe the writer-director the gap should be minimal. When writer writes, he writes it with a visual in mind, and the director who conducts that visual within this medium has to get the right imagery. And that imagery is very crucial because it's a short 3-minute thing and you have a budget conditioning. And that's called the referential activity. When I say, okay, there is a pineapple with a red spot in it, I'm telling all of you. I know that there could be 100 different pineapples and 100 different red spots. So I will write a pineapple with a red spot. So this is a communication defect. So we need to get the right words to communicate the best possible imagery, which Alphonse was saying when he was saying that when I prompt an AI may give close to what I have in mind and then show it. The right pineapple with the right spot, is it meshy or is it big or small or whatever it is. So probably in most of these cases, I think AI can be a good collaborator to make things.
That's the point.
We used to have storyboards, and the madri dane.
Yeah.
But it can be a
now,
collaborator.
when you write the prompt, you're writing what is in your mind, you know.
Get the right prompts.
Yeah. There are directors I know that who cannot explain what they have in their mind, but they'll say, "Inja camera vaipa, 35 podu," you know. You feel like a mechanical operator there, you know. You're not a contributor kind of a stuff. But whereas here, when he gets into it, everybody gets into this whole writing this prompt until you see the result of it. It's like talking to a cameraman and getting what you're getting, you know. So when you get your prompt corrected again and again and again,
see,
better
one
visual
thing
description.
which is, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
one thing which I have revised myself with, suppose if I'm sharing my thoughts about hero's journey, for example. Now I started telling young aspiring writers how to prompt a hero's journey into the computer. So it is as good as or as important as the 12 stations of hero's journey. How it can be prompted well so that you could get some results. So it's going to be part of this whole system, and it's not going to go. It's going to be a part of our life. Probably clerically or in many other forms, it can add a lot of work done. But the basics remain the same, and the basics is about life, and that's not going to affect this. If that diminishes, then everything is a fallen thing.
The key point here is the basics remain the same. Thank you so much on that note. I learned a lot by interacting with all of you on what vertical filmmaking is and how we are headed as a society in terms of consuming content on smartphone, and also in the larger context, what is the general where we are headed as, you know, creators and filmmakers.
So
You can put up your
Director
hand
Vasan sir is here. So I would like to ask him to please உங்களுடைய comments, உங்களுடைய perception.
We should see how we can make what we want to say through that.
Yeah.
I am for that. I am for that.
அதேதான் சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தேன்.
And I think who is AI is, according to me, we are all AI. It is taking only from us.
Correct.
ஆமாமா, நம்ம சொன்னது தானே.
So whatever I type, whatever I send, sometime later it is coming to me with more additions.
Correct.
For everybody. True. So AI is nothing that like robot or something like that, that's outside. It's only the technicians and the industry people and the writers, whatever we write,
Right.
it's beautiful. It is too intelligent that it takes everything and gives it as one. Lovely meeting and listening to you all. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
ஐயோ. Yeah.
If you have any questions, you can put up your raise your hand.
See, I am here because of my dear friend Samraj.
Not for me. அது பாருங்க.
முதல்ல வந்து பீப்புள்ஸ் தேட்டரில் படம் பார்த்தாலே போதும்னு இருந்த பீப்புள் இன்றைக்கி நான் ஐமேக்ஸில் தான் அந்த படத்தை நான் பார்ப்பேன்னு இருக்காங்க. ஏன் அப்படின்னா இட்ஸ் டூ வைடர் தென் நார்மல் ஸ்க்ரீன்ஸ். ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி பீப்புள் எல்லாருமே வைடர் ஸ்க்ரீன்ஸுக்கு அப்டேட் ஆகிருக்கும் போது, இங்கே நம்ம இந்த ஷார்ட் ஸ்டோரிஸ்க்கு நம்ம வரும்போது, இந்த நேரோ ஸ்க்ரீனுக்கு வரும்போது, ஒரு பெரிய இனிமே யார் அப்படின்னா, என்ன ரீல்ஸ் தானே எடுக்க போகிறீங்க அப்படிங்கிற கொஷின். ஸோ இந்த ஹோல் பாயிண்ட்லேருந்து நான் கேட்க போகிறது என்னன்னா, இது உண்மையாகவே பீப்புள்கிட்ட ஒர்க் ஆகுமா? ஏன்னா என்கிட்ட சில ஸ்டோரிஸ் இருக்குது, நான் நம்பி இதில் எடுக்கலாமா?
இல்லை, இதுக்கு முன்னாடி சொன்ன அந்த ஸ்டிக்மான்ற பாயிண்ட்டில் இதை சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தாங்க. இப்போ அந்த ஸ்டிக்மா இருக்குது, உங்களுக்கு இருக்க கேள்வி வந்து பல பேருக்கு இருக்குது, இது ஒரு சீரியஸான மீடியமா, இதில் நான் ஏதாவது பண்ணால் ஒர்க் ஆகுமான்னு. அது நம்மளை தான் கேட்டுக்கணும், நீங்கள் தான் அதை ஒர்க் பண்ண வைக்கணும். இப்போ வாட் எவர், இப்போ நீங்கள் ஒரு நிமிஷத்தில் உங்களுக்கு அந்த கதை ஒர்க் ஆச்சு எழுதுனீங்களே, அதை நீங்கள் இப்போ இந்த மீடியமில் நீங்கள் ஒன்றும் டூ இட். ஸோ நம்ம தான் அதை ஒர்க் பண்ணி ஆகணும். இது யாருமே வந்துட்டு இது ஒர்க் ஆகுமா இல்லாதான்றது இட்ஸ் ஃபார் எவ்ரி ஒன் டு டிசைட். இட்ஸ் இண்டஸ்ட்ரி என்ன சொல்லுன்னா, பண்ணுங்க, நம்ம ஃபன் பண்ணுறோம், வாட் எவர். ஐ மீன் த ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி இருக்குது ஃபார் யூ டு மேக் இட் ஒர்க் இஸ் கம்ப்ளீட்லி உங்கள் கையில் இருக்குது as a creator.
Yeah, it's a good question, but the radical difference between this and the user-generated content that you see on TikTok or Instagram is, adil ellame user-generated content, yeah. And the scroll is not linear. The algorithm gives you what is the next video. In case உங்களுடைய அந்த பர்டிகுலர் குறும்படத்துடைய தலைப்பு எக்ஸ்ன்னு வச்சுக்கிட்டிங்கன்னா, நான் ஒரு சராசரி ஆடியன்ஸாக நான் கதை ஷார்ட்ஸ் ஆப்குள்ளே வந்து எக்ஸுங்கிற உங்களுடைய குறும்படத்துடைய தம்ப்நெயிலையோ போஸ்டரையோ பார்த்து நான் அதில் ஆர்வமாக போய் கிளிக் செஞ்சேன் அப்படின்னா, அது வந்து 30 அத்தியாயங்களாகவோ 40 அத்தியாயங்களோ அதில் இருக்குது அப்படின்னு நான் பார்க்கும்போது, அப்போ நான் ஒன்று பார்த்துட்டு ரெண்டாவது போகும்போது உங்கள் கதையோட தொடர்ச்சியை தான் பார்க்குறேன் இல்லைங்களா? அண்ட் லைக் மேம் செட், மற்ற யூசர் ஜென்ரேட்டட் கண்டென்ட் மாதிரி இல்லாமல் இங்கே ப்ரொஃபஷனல்ஸ் ஒரு நல்ல ஷார்ட் டிவிஷனோட, ஒரு நல்ல இம்மர்சிவ் சவுண்ட் டிசைனோட அவங்க உங்களுக்கு அதை ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ணுறாங்க. இட் ஹேஸ் டு பி ரேடிக்கலி டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ஃப்ரம் த யூசர் ஜென்ரேட்டட் கான்டென்ட் தட் யூ சி அதர்வைஸ் ஆன் தி அதர் சோஷியல் மீடியா, விச் இஸ் யுவர் ரெஸ்பான்சிபிலிட்டி ஆஸ் அ கிரியேட்டர். அதுதான் நம்ம அந்த ஸ்டிக்மாக்கும் பேசியிருந்தோம். ஸோ 4 பேர் இதை கருத்தோட கிராஃப்டாகவும் சரி எழுத்து வடிவத்திலையும் சரி கருத்தோட செய்யும் பொழுது தென் இந்த கொஸ்டின் இல்லை இஸ் திஸ் த சேம் ஆஸ் அ ரீல் அப்படிங்கிறது வேற ஒரு கிரியேஷன் இடத்துலையுமே இன்டென்ட்டுங்கிற வார்த்தையை அவங்க சொல்லியிருந்தாங்க. இந்த இடத்துல அந்த இன்டென்ட்டுங்கிறது கிரியேட்டர்கிட்டையும் இருக்குது, எண்ட் யூசர்கிட்டையும் இருக்குது. ஏன்னா அந்த எண்ட் யூசர் சும்மா டைம் பாஸுக்காக ஒரு ஸ்க்ராலை செய்யலை. இந்த இடத்துல வந்து ஒரு தலைப்பை தேர்ந்தெடுத்து அந்த தலைப்புக்குள்ளே தான் ஆழ்ந்து போகணும்னு முடிவெடுத்து அவங்க உள்ளே வராங்க. அப்போ அவங்களுடைய இந்த ஸ்க்ரால் இஸ் இன்டென்ஷனல் அகெயின். இட்ஸ் நாட் அ ரேண்டம் ஸ்க்ரால் லைக் இன்ஸ்டாகிராம் ரீல் ஸ்க்ரால், இஃப் ஐ மே ஆன்சர்.
You're right.
Thank you.
Very
Correct,
nicely
correct.
said.
Detail.
ஆக்சுவலாக ஃபாரின் கண்ட்ரீஸில் இதுக்காகவே பிரத்யேக திரையரங்கங்கள் இருக்குது. இப்போ கதை ஷார்ட்ஸ் நீங்கள் வந்து இதை தட்ஸ்டன் அப்ளிகேஷனாகவே இது பண்ண போகிறீங்களா இல்லை இது ஒன்றும் அப்டேட் பண்ண போகிறீங்களா?
இல்லை, ஆஸ் ஆஃப் நவ் நம்ம வந்து கதை ஷார்ட்ஸில் வந்து நம்ம ஷார்ட் எபிசோட்ஸ் ஆனால் லாங் ஃபார்ம் கான்டென்ட்டாக பல எபிசோட்ஸ் போகிற சீரீஸ் தான் பண்ணுறோம்.
Like part
நீங்கள்
part-ஆ?
சொன்ன ஆர்டிகல்ஸையும் நான் பார்த்தேன். அந்த வெர்டிக்கல் சினிமாவுக்கு செப்பரேட் எக்ஸ்க்ளூசிவ் தியேட்டர்ஸ் பண்ணுறாங்க. வேர் 50 சீட்டர் 30 சீட்டர்ஸ் வச்சு வெர்டிக்கல் பிளாஸ்மாஸ் வச்சு ஃபுல்லாக சவுண்ட் சிஸ்டமோட பண்ணுறாங்க. வி ஆர் இன்டர்னலி டாக்கிங் அபவுட் இட். ஐ எம் வெரி கிளாட் யூ ஆல்சோ வென்ட் த்ரூ த சேம் ஆர்டிக்கல் ஆர் வாட் எவர் நியூஸ் ஐட்டம். இட்ஸ் எக்ஸைட்டிங். வி மைட் ப்ராபப்ளி செட் அப். திஸ் இஸ் த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் கிரியேட்டர்ஸ் ஈவெண்ட் தட் வி ஆர் டூயிங். அடுத்த முறை மேபி நீங்கள் சொன்ன மாதிரி நாங்கள் செஞ்ச விஷயங்களே கூட ஒரு வெர்டிக்கல் தியேட்டர் மாதிரி ஒன்று செட் பண்ணி கூட நம்ம பார்க்கறதுக்கான வாய்ப்பு இருக்குது. Thank you so much.
I have an answer for you. You know, what you said about this 1 minute, other special concept that you have made 1 minute movies. Here they are looking at a 20-minute or 90 minutes movies in which go. So your concept exactly, narrative is 90 minutes.
No.
So
It's
the
a bigger concept.
Process is reversed. Then you have to make 3 minutes viable, engaging within this 90-minute concept.
And also it's the app. You get into the app, like you pick up a book to read so many short stories, Madri.
ஆக்சுவலாக நான் வந்து எங்கிட்ட நிறைய ஸ்டோரிஸ் இருக்குது. அதில் நிறைய ஸ்டோரிஸ் இங்கே ஆரம்பிக்கணும், இங்கே போகணும், இங்கே வரும். அதாவது ஓல்ட் ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் எங்கிட்ட இருக்குது. நான் வந்து ரைட் பண்ணலான்னு நான் உட்காரும்போது என்ன ஆகும் அப்படின்னா, நான் வந்து இன்டீரியர் எக்ஸ்டீரியர் இந்த கேரக்டர் நான் அப்படின்னு நான் எழுத ஆரம்பிச்சேன்னா என்னால் ஒரு ½ அன் ஹவர் தாண்ட முடியாது, அப்படியே முடிச்சுட்டு வந்துடுவேன். பட் ஆனால் ஒரு புக்காக லைக் ஒரு புக்கில் இருக்க ஸ்டோரிஸ் மாதிரி நான் அப்படி ஒரு ஃப்ளோவில் வந்தேன் அப்படின்னா என்னால் ஒரு ஓல்ட் ஸ்டோரியை ஒரு நைட்டில் என்னால் கம்ப்ளீட் பண்ண முடியுது. நான் இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு புக்காக எழுதி அந்த விஷயத்தை என்னால் டேரெக்டாக நான் ஷூட் பண்ண எடுத்துகிட்டு போகலாமா?
நீங்கள் அப்படி தான் எழுதணும். எழுதுறதுன்றது அவ்வளவு சுருக்கமாக, நீங்கள் ஆரம்பத்தில் ஒரு கேள்வி கேட்டீங்க, இந்த ஃபார்ம் இது ஒரு தொழில்நுட்பம். வேறொரு சமயத்தில்
கரெக்ட்
பாலுமகேந்திராவை பற்றி சுஜாதா ஒன்று எழுதுகிறார். சும்மா ஒரு 5 வரி 5 இல்லை 6 வரி. பாலுமகேந்திரா என்னை ஒரு புகைப்படம் எடுக்க முயற்சி செய்தார். இங்கே நிறுத்தினார், அங்கே நிறுத்தினார், வெவ்வேறு இடங்கள் நிறுத்தினார். அவருக்கு திருப்தியே இல்லை. ஜன்னல் ஓரத்தில் நிறுத்தினார். பிறகு கடைசியாக தன் உதவியாளர் அழைத்து ஒரு தெர்மோகோல் வாங்கி வர சொன்னார். அந்த தெர்மோகோலை அந்த உதவியாளர் பிடிக்க என்னை ஒரு புகைப்படம் எடுத்தார். என் வாழ்நாளிலே மிகச்சிறந்த புகைப்படம் அது. இந்த நகரத்தில் நிறைய தெர்மோகோல்கள் இருக்கின்றன, ஒரே ஒரு பாலுமகேந்திரா தான் இருக்கிறார். அப்போ தொழில்நுட்பம்ன்றது தொழில்நுட்பம், அது ஒரு தொழில்நுட்பம். இந்த தொழில்நுட்பத்தை 1 நிமிஷத்தில் 2 நிமிஷத்தில் அது சொல்ல முடியாதா? நான் ரொம்ப எளிமையாக கேட்குறேன். திருவல்லிக்கேணி போகிறீங்க, கோஷா ஒருத்தவங்க போகிறாங்க. இந்த கண்ணு 2 செகண்ட் உங்களை பார்க்குதா, அதில் பேசுதா?
அவ்வளவுதான்.
ஈஸ்வர் பழம்னு சொல்லிட்டு முடிச்சாரு. எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்ச ப்ராவர்ப், brevity is the soul of wit அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க இல்லையா? சுருங்க சொல்றது தான் ஒரு ஒரு அறிவினுடைய எவல்யூஷனுடைய ஒரு உச்சபட்ச இடம் அப்படின்றாங்க. ஸோ இட்ஸ் a beautiful medium. இது ரொம்ப brief as you are, it is also as difficult, but அது செஞ்சிட்டா it's very effective.
It's very nice actually.
Hi, I have a 2-part question. First is, who are the gatekeepers of distribution? And the second, I work predominantly with children as a storyteller to get children to read primarily. Children as a section or as an industry to be targeted to has not been even looked at over the past, I don't know how many years. So who are the gatekeepers and how do you plan to move past those gatekeepers? Especially when accessibility is now becoming a problem with governments banning social media for age groups below a certain for children. Yeah.
Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka have done it.
Yeah.
You certainly don't want to hear me ranting about distribution. I made 2 feature films. Both have not been distributed. both haven't got a release, so I can go on for
one more year
hours
sitting
talking
here
about it.
and
So I
waiting to
better-
release
Yeah.
her film.
Yeah. So but let's
Ada.
show me those gatekeepers. I want to meet them also.
Correct.
And I mean, distribution in terms of film distribution, all content. Like here in Kadhaishorts, I mean, the IT law does not allow children to install the app, which means parents will have to log in and sort of vet what is appropriate for children. And there are going to be series that they all can watch together. Children can watch. We are coming up with one now, but it is up to the parents to choose it. And with the strict laws and everything, now below 16-year-old people cannot install the app. So the app is for an adult. Maybe under the adult supervision, there may be content that is appropriate for children within Kadhaishorts.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to all the panelists and moderators, Stevens and so for and எல்லாருக்குமே இந்த vertical cinema camera திருப்பினா போதுமா அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கான ஒரு நல்ல ஆன்சர் கன்சே பண்ணுறேன். And ஜிவி head of content Kadhaishorts
வந்ததுக்கு ரொம்ப நன்றி. தேங்க்யூ ஸோ மச் பேனல் மெம்பர்ஸ். நம்ம எக்ஸாஸ்டிவா இமேஜ்லேருந்து சவுண்ட்லேருந்து எல்லாமே பேசிட்டோம். ரைட்டிங் தான் டிக்டேட்ஸ் எல்லாருடைய பணியையும். ஸோ நீங்கள் எல்லாருமே வந்து Kadhaishortsக்கு கதைகளை எழுதி ஸ்க்ரீன் பிளேவாக கொண்டு வந்து கொடுக்கணும்னு ஆர்வமாக நாங்கள் காத்திருக்கோம். ஐ கம் ஃப்ரம் அ ரேடியோ பேக்ரவுண்ட். ஸோ ஆஃப்டர் செவரல் இயர்ஸ் இதை வந்து ஒரு பர்சனல் மீடியம்ங்கிறத பற்றி பேசிட்டு இருந்தாங்க. நம்மளுடைய ஆடியன்ஸ் வந்து ஒரு தனிநபராக இருப்பாங்க, ஒரு தனிநபர் ஊடகமாக அது இருக்குது. ஸோ கிரியேட்டர் டு த எண்ட் யூசர், உங்களுக்கு எது எழுதுறதுக்கு ஆர்வமாக இருந்தாலும் Kadhaishorts கதவுகள் திறந்தே இருக்கு.